The Vanir were peaceful gods. They ruled the mild winds and the gentle rains. But when they heard of Golbeg's treatment, they became angry. She, after all, had come from their realm, and they thought she should be avenged. They armed themselves and they headed to Asgard. Warned by Heimdall, the Aesir heard of their approach. They armed themselves and rushed from their halls. But the Vanir had already breached the walls, and they were in battle formation on the sacred plains of Ida. There, the first battle of the world was fought. It was a fierce battle, but eventually they realized that they were evenly matched, and they laid down their arms. To ensure a lasting peace, they agreed to exchange hostages. Odin sent his brother, Honir, who was handsome and tall, but rather slow of wit. Odin sent his brother Honir to the world of the Vanir. He was a very handsome god, long-legged, swift of foot. Unfortunately, he was slow of wit. So Odin also sent the ancient Jotun Mimir with him as his advisor. The Vanir gods were so taken in by Honir's handsome, stately appearance that they made him chieftain. But as time went on, they were a little irritated because he couldn't make a single decision without asking Mimir. They thought the Aesir had cheated them by sending them someone who was stupid and unimportant. So, since they couldn't harm Odin's brother, they cut off Mimir's head and sent it back to Asgard. Odin was outraged. He sent word to the Vanir that he had acted in good faith, that Honir was one of the oldest of the Aesir, and Mimir, the wise old Jotun, was the best that he could possibly have given them as hostages. Then he used his magic power, and he blew life back into Mimir's head. Ever after, whenever he was in a time of distress, he went to Mimir's head for advice. Honir stayed with the Vanir, and there were no more quarrels. Aesir, for their part, were delighted with the hostages that had come to Asgard. The Vanir had sent their god Njord and his 2 children, Frey and Freya. Njord was very stately in appearance. He was a good and fruitful god. He sent gentle winds to fill the sails of ships. He could blow fierce winds to blow out fires. The Aesir gave him a sparkling hall with a shipyard by the shore of the celestial sea. Frey was the god of fertility. He sent life-giving showers and sunshine to the crops. Rich harvest came with him. He had a sword which gleamed as brightly as the sun, and a horse which could dash through roaring flames. The Aesir gave him the ship that could sail over both land and sea, and also the golden boar that could fly, the ones that the dwarves had made. When Frey rode the golden boar across the summer sky, its golden bristles shooting out rays, it lit up the darkest valleys, and it increased manyfold the crops on earth. The Aesir gave Frey a palace in Elfheim, and the elves waited upon him. Freya, Frey's sister, was the goddess of love. She came to Asgard in a chariot pulled by cats. On her lap was her beautiful little daughter, Nos. Nos was so sweet that everyone loved her. Freya was the most beautiful of goddesses, but she was often sad, for her husband had disappeared. He was a wanderer and a dreamer, and he had been lost in one world or another, and she didn't know where. Freya often went looking for him. Sometimes she drove off with her cats, and sometimes she flew off as a falcon, for she had a suit of falcon feathers that allowed her to fly. The Aesir built a hall for Freya in Asgard. It was almost as big as Odin's. It had to be big because Freya was very fond of hosting large parties. Still, Freya would often think of her lost husband and weep golden tears.